On this edition of Gameface on FLSportsFan.com, we'll get you excited about 3 winless NFL teams in Florida and 3 college teams that have cracked the top 20 with our good friend Gary Fineout, the sports addict. Gary, how do you get excited about 3 winless teams in the NFL?
Well, I get excited about the fact that Miami Dolphins put up a heck of a game against...
Dominating
game, 45 minutes. They still lost because Peyton Manning is still Peyton Manning. But, I mean, I have to take away from that game that the Wildcat looked good. The team had a lot of good things going on for it. They just didn't have enough.
Where's that Marvin Harrison type receiver? Ted Ginn Jr. caught a lot of passes, but where's that big bomb threat? That's what they're lacking.
That is what they're lacking, and I think this is a make-or-break year for Ted Ginn Jr. I mean, he's a top-round draft choice. I mean, he's got to step up and make those plays when the team needs it.
I mean, I was excited the entire game. I love Peyton Manning, and he's a great quarterback, but I love the Dolphins more. And I really believed from the first quarter they were winning the game, that they were going to win the game. They dominated the game, and yet they couldn't close because they could not stop Manning the few minutes he was on the field.
Well, absolutely, and I still think, though, there's enough to build on. I mean, I think there's things there that you can get excited about. I'm not sure I can say the same about the Jags or the Bucs. I don't know when they're going to win. I don't know who they're going to win against. At least when I watch the Dolphins, I think, okay, even a tough game next week against San Diego, I think they have a shot, and that's something.
This could be, though, not that it's not early in the season, it could be one of the worst years in Florida NFL team history when we're 0-6 starting out the season among the 3 teams.
But we can always hope that the Detroit Lions keep losing so that they break the Bucs' losing streak.
Well, it reminds me of back in the days when John McKay was the Buccaneers coach, and after a particularly poor game in the locker room, a reporter asked him, "What do you think about your team's execution?" And he said, "I'm for it." Let's move on to Florida college ranks, where the news is much better. 3 teams all moving up, you know, in the top 20, and for FSU and Miami in particular, a great week this past week.
Well, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, FSU just blew BYU out of the water. Everyone thought that they were going to go up there and get defeated because of the way that they looked against Jacksonville State. I think, well, we can say, well, hey, the offense has been found once again at FSU.
And I think this is the real 2009 Knowles team that we saw against BYU. Similarly, Miami surprising everyone in the top 10 with an amazing performance against Georgia Tech, and people talking about Ja'Cory Harris as maybe a dark horse Heisman candidate.
I certainly think he's a dark horse Heisman. I mean, if he beats, if he goes into Blacksburg and beats Virginia Tech and then beats Oklahoma 2 weeks from now, I think you're going to be talking about him as being one of the top contenders in the country.
Well, and Florida's going to Kentucky. They ought to be able to cream Kentucky in that game. And what about Florida State?
Well, I'm gonna jump in and I'm saying I think Florida needs to be careful that Kentucky is not a trap game, that they're not looking ahead to LSU. I think what I saw in that game this past weekend with Florida would have me concerned. I think that Florida is going to trip up some point.
Aberration.
As for FSU, I like FSU in the next few weeks. You know. Now, there's even a dream scenario here, Ron. What if Florida State wins the rest of the games, including beating Florida, then meets Miami in an ACC title game with a national championship on the line?
And what color is the sky in your world, Gary? All right, for this week's penalty flag, we're going to let Gary have the toss.
This one goes out to ESPN. You basically showed a slasher flick ad during the Florida State-Miami game. It really upset a lot of people who still remember Ted Bundy and what he did here.
But it was a slasher flick about a
killer at a sorority. I mean, it was bad taste. And so, penalty on you, ESPN.
Okay. Well said, Gary. We hope all your favorite teams win. Go to FLSportsFan.com for all your favorite news about your college teams and your pro teams in Florida, winless or not. And we'll see you next time on Gameface.